you and me are bored of regularities, living all the dreams, playing all the games, and getting high on love. They can chase us down, but we will always win. Leading every dance, feeling every touch, and getting high on love. We're invincible. Trust in me. We're invincible. Don't you see?
We're coming to you from our house, and we wanted to talk about a very sensitive subject, and that is pornography. So we wanted to take the next little while and explain to you what it does, the repercussions, damage, explain a little bit about our story, and we want to label out some statistics, as well as we have a Q&A. So grab you a cup of coffee or some tea and join us for the next little while.
We sent out a thing to get some questions that some people are having about the issue of pornography and what it does, how to navigate through it, the beginning phases of it for the husband and wife. So Amy received some questions. We're going to keep those anonymous on who they're from and whatnot, and we'll just start answering some of the questions and then just give our input of how we navigated through our story in pornography and how we made it through, and just give our advice. I mean, we're not professionals. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and neither is Amy. We're not licensed professionals. We're just giving our input on it and helping others navigate through it and save their marriage and get closer to God through this whole ordeal. And I believe that God uses us to share our story, whatever it may be. And this is our way of sharing our story and helping others, because I believe that's what we're called to do. I don't believe that we're supposed to keep quiet, and if others are going through this and they just navigate through it themselves. If we're here to help, I think God wants us to help and help others get through this.
So I wanted to start with some statistics. For those that don't know, $3,000 is spent every single second on pornography. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. $3,000 a second. I mean, just timesing that by 60 seconds that's in a minute, you're looking at $180,000 per minute that is being spent on pornography. That is a lot of money. It is one of the most sought after, and they make a ton of money in all avenues when it comes to anything that has to do with sexual things. There is 28,000 people watching pornography every second. That's not every minute, and even if it was, that would be a lot too. This is every single second. 1 in 5 Google searches are porn related. That is very, very scary, especially in a world where our kids have access to the internet. One of the 3 reasons why it is so addicting is because it's affordable, it is accessible, and it is anonymous.
And the way she said anonymous, back in the day when we were growing up, in the 80s and 90s, it was a little bit harder to actually get your hands on this. You would have to actually go to a store and buy the material and then take it home and pop it in a DVD or DVR, whatever you call it, and watch it. And if you hear somebody coming, then chances are getting over there and turning it off is slim to none. So was it around back then? I'm pretty sure it was. I don't think it's as rampant as it is right now. Like Amy was saying, with these devices right here, is so easy to get on it, and it's at your fingertips, and you can just click it off real quick. Nobody knows what you're doing with it or what you're looking at.
You can probably explain a little bit more on this when we talk about our story, but porn overstimulates dopamine and an endorphin. So it's one of the reasons why men have, and even women, because we're not going to just focus on men here. This is also something that's becoming an epidemic for women. But it's the endorphins and the dopamine.
And a lot of times women, they tend to think, I don't look good enough, I'm not skinny enough, what if I was this, what if I was that? And to be honest with you, a lot of it doesn't really pertain to that. It's like what Ann was saying, those chemical endorphins that kick off, it could be the sounds of it. It could be just the watching of the act of it. It just gets those racing. So a lot of times we're not looking at it just because we're, man, I wish my wife looked like this. Man, I wish she would do that. No, it's the whole act of it. It's like a drug, really. And that's what really kicks us off. But I know the hurt on that other side of it, the women are thinking it's more of the, I guess you'd say, with the looking at it, and that we're gawking over the females.
Yeah, just like you said, maybe just choosing another female instead of your wife.
And that really a lot of times isn't. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are some cases that are, but a lot of times it's just that the act of what you're watching and the sounds of it and everything. It's this all-in-one thing that kicks those endorphins off.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
it's a drug that makes you come back for more.
So our story was about, what, 12 years ago? About 13 years ago. And I had caught some videos and images on his personal laptop that he was taking with him to work, and he had left it behind one day. And I just had this urge, this feeling inside that something wasn't right. Now, there wasn't really any behaviors, there wasn't anything that was saying, he's so different, what's going on. It was just this intuition that I will always credit to God, that he was just instructing me, hey, we need to find this, we need to get this out, we're going to expose this sin. And I was alone, I was by myself, he was at the firehouse, he had left the computer behind that day, and I had discovered some inappropriate things. It rocked my world. I had never been down this road before, and I didn't have any idea what to do with that. I went into shock. I could feel my body literally just like shutting down. Just didn't know what I was going to do. I sort of, just went to bed with that feeling and just laid there crying about it. And the next morning, of course, I had to take care of my kids, get them to school. And when I got home, I was ready to confront him about it. And it was from that moment on that our lives went on a very fast roller coaster. And I'll let him share some things that he's been through that I feel has really transformed him into the person that he is today. So.
And I'm going to go back off of what she was just saying a second ago, about her catching me. Guys and ladies out there, if you're sinning, no matter what it is, it's going to come out. God is going to shine the light on it, and it's going to come out whether you like it or not. And that's what happened in my case, and I'm pretty sure it happens in everybody else's case, but it will come out. Of course, growing up, as a young kid, I've seen images in magazines. I've seen that little the cable box that we used to have growing up. You get to turn the dial to change channels. Well, back then the Playboy channel was in there, and if you just put the paper in just right, you can see an image. And of course, being little kids, we were in heaven watching that. And then, since the magazines growing up, I don't think that really played a huge part in it. I think where it happened was one of my first fire department job. There was stacks of them, of real bad magazines in the bathroom, and that really piqued my interest back then. And that was the age of the cell phones were just coming out, starting to get smart around that time. And
Dangerous.
that's where it really took off. And then I got my first little laptop computer. I forgot what job I was doing part-time, and I said I needed it, and I used that, and images popped on there too. And that's where a lot of the stuff started happening, and that's where it happens nowadays. It's these smart devices. And if you're a guy out there and you say that I don't struggle with it, I think there's two guys out there: those who admit and those who are in denial. I think every guy has an issue, whether checking women out in public or watching some form of pornography. And I think every guy has watched some form of pornography because it's so readily available on these phones. I was caught 3 times. The first time, and at the time that I was caught actually all 3 times, we weren't really that big into church. We were going to church, but it wasn't really on a regular basis. I mean, there was a lot of Sundays we'd make an excuse not to go. And I told her that I could do it on my own, and I tried to do it on my own. It actually worked for a little bit, and then fell right back into it. It would be some kind of stressor, something along the lines of something that would stress me out, or life in general, and then get back into it again, got caught again. And each time I thought I'd get a little bit more crafty of covering up my tracks, and God shone that light, and the sun got brought out again. Did the same thing, promised. I said, I, me, I could do all this myself, and failed again, got caught again for the 3rd time. And that was it for her. She's like, we're not doing this again. This is it. Either you go to this event that I'm fixing to send you to because I did some research, or she did research. And if you do not go, then this is the end of us. And so, of course, I wanted to be done. I went ahead and went. It was Every Man's Battle. It was a 3-day conference. And it was one of the best things I could have ever done. It's New Life Ministries. It's a Christian organization. And I had to put God first at this time. It wasn't a situation where I could say, I can do it on my own. I got to do this myself. I got to change for Amy. No, I had to change for God. It's a heart thing. I had to go this route, change my heart, my whole thought process of how this goes. And Every Man's Battle was a blessing. It was nervous going up there. I thought I was going to walk into a room because the sin of pornography is not like drugs or alcohol or pain medicine. It's a shameful one because you don't want to admit I'm watching porn. It makes you feel like a dirty person. So I felt like I was going to go to this place and just see all these dirty men up there, and I was going to fit right on in with them. But no, it wasn't like that. It was every walk of life. It was fathers, there was sons there was doctors, there was lawyers, there were firemen, police, public safety. It was all walks of life. And they opened you in with an open arms. And it was the best weekend that I could have ever had, and came out with some really close brothers. There's still about 4 or 5 of us to still to this day stay in contact, whether it's text or whether it's call. They're my brothers in this battle. And what you don't realize is we need this. The wives need this. The men going through this need this. We need other Christian men, in my case. She needs other Christian women, in her case, to help go through this battle. I mean, we're not meant to do this alone. We're just not. We need God, we need prayer, but we need each other. And that was one of the best things.
And I'm really, really glad that he agreed to do that, because that was life-changing, y'all. When he finally realized at that point in his life that...
I'm going to take the Bible first, please.
Okay. That this mattered so much to him, and we mattered, I mattered, God mattered, our family mattered. it really showed me a lot, and I was really, really proud. I was super supportive of it, and making sure that he was prepared to go, and I was an ear when he came back to hear all about it. And boy, was I just super excited to hear all the testimonies and things that he had learned. And he'll tell you too that he kind of went in there, and this is kind of like a word picture, but he kind of went in with an empty toolbox, and he came out with so many tools that he could put in that toolbox that kind of were there. They were going to be with him wherever he went. It didn't matter if he was at work or if he was at home or if he was at church or he was alone, that he had something that he could pull from that would remind him of what he had learned. And he had learned what each tool did and how, he could put it to work. And so I feel like that's what's given him a lot of his direction each time he gets hit with temptations. And that can happen anywhere. He'll tell you that. Anywhere.
I didn't go to my Bible. My wife came prepared. She wrote down in her notes, going back on the we need each other, is Proverbs 27 or 17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So that shows from the Bible that we need each other. We need each other for a shoulder to cry on. For at 1 o'clock in the morning, hey, I'm struggling. I need somebody to talk to.
So this goes back on why it is extremely important to share your story. We all walk through some pretty radical, crazy, ridiculous, painful experiences. And when ours first started, I knew right from the start that it was because we were going to help others at some point. Even though I knew I wasn't really in a place to be able to help anyone or to direct anyone or pray with anyone, through the last 13 years, I have really grown to a place where I feel like I could help others, I could help direct, and I could help pray. And I've already had some women who have reached out to me, and that makes me feel so very good, because this is our way of sharing our story and helping someone else. And through their story, they can turn and help someone else. Because I don't feel like this is going to end today or tomorrow. It's definitely something we need to be praying about for sure, though, because it's wrecking families, and it tried to wreck ours on multiple occasions. And we kept God at the forefront as much as we could, and He is the reason why we are as strong as we are today.
Yeah, I've had guys come up to me for the same thing, asking for advice. And back when we were going through this, each time we actually had nobody. I mean, this is something we had to navigate ourselves. Like I said, I'll go back to the Every Man's Battle. Thank God for that. But one thing I will say is I don't think there is enough for help-wise for the wives. I know New Life Ministries, they have it's like a conference. I want to say it's a conference or like a workshop for the couples. And I have to, we'll put a link in below of both Every Man's Battle Workshop and then also the couples thing. But really, I don't think there's a lot of help out there for the wives that are going through this. Mm-hmm. So that's why we need each other. We need other Christian men and women to lean on in this situation. Don't keep it in, and don't feel like you need to keep it in. Reach out, and don't be embarrassed to reach out, men or women, for help.
So I want to get to the Q&A a little bit, but one of the tools that Philip learned at Every Man's Battle was something called blinders. And it's something that he pretty much put into place that weekend. And when he came home and he was telling me about what that, what that looked like, man, did that make me feel so important. Even though he was working on that for him and his life and with God, and that showed so much to me, and that made me feel secure. And watching him do that in public, gosh, as a wife, I mean, that made me feel so great. So explain how did that affect your life, and how has it helped you?
So battle plans is part of, or blinders I should say, is part of a battle plan. So you make a battle plan no matter what you're doing. It could be for, okay, tomorrow or tonight we're going to a restaurant. So my battle plan is, when we get there, I'm going to place myself at a table to where I'm not really facing a lot of the people there. If I notice any kind of temptation, if I know that I'm walking into a place where there may be temptation, I'm going to try my best to put my back to it. As they said in Every Man's Battle, you're allowed one look, and it's not really that you're looking. You can't help a lot of times if somebody goes by your view. If you catch something that might be tempting, that's your first, and that's when you say, you know what, I know that could be very tempting, so I know for future, if I know that person over there, I'm going to keep my back to them, I'm going to face this way. And you do everything within your power, and that's blinders. You put these blinders on like a horse, and that way your focus is on God and your spouse. And you keep all those other temptations away from it. You bounce your eyes away. If you see something that could be tempting, you bounce. You go straight to something else. For instance, I had a buddy of mine ask me, what do I do when I'm at home by myself? And my wife, she's coming home from work. I got about an hour of time lapse, and it's so tempting to get on a computer. I said, okay, we'll just shut that computer, turn it off, do something else. If you got a favorite hobby, engross yourself into that, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's hunting, whether it's fishing, whatever it could be. Engross yourself into that. Get the Bible. Open up the Bible. Read it. Do something other than have that computer or that smart device sit next to you, because it is extremely tempting, and if you don't have that, you will fail. But the blinders is a big thing, and the battle plan is a big thing. You got to have some kind of plan in advance to combat this. If you don't, then the devil is out there, and he's looking for the weak, and he'll devour you. And this is a very tempting sin that men fall into, and there are women that do fall into it, but the vast majority is men. But one thing that also went through my mind to help me a lot go through and kind of like put the brakes on is, do you realize every time that you open up this device and you watch pornography, or you go to a strip club, or you just do anything within that realm of sexual sin, you're fueling this multi-billion, and I'm probably wrong with that, it may be in the trillion, industry of human trafficking. Because a lot of these women that are in these videos, the vast majority are not in it willingly and they're making a fortune. They're not. They're in there because they're being traded. They're slaves to this. Whether they have a drug addiction and they're being fed drugs to perform in these videos, we as men are fueling this industry. That's one of the biggest things I can tell somebody. If you're having a hard time getting away from this, put that through your mind for a second. That could be my wife, my daughter, my granddaughter, my mother, my sister, that's being sold as a sex slave into this industry. Mm-hmm. And that right there should make your stomach sick, and to just get away from it. But it's those endorphins that kick in, but you gotta fight that. You gotta put God at number one. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, change your heart mindset and put this battle plan in place.
So we'll do our Q&A based on our, right after that. And I feel like he just ended that in a really good place, because that's been something that's been on his heart. I've heard about it for the last week, about how important it is that he shares that, which he has brought to my attention several times over the years. But this was something that was very passionate to him to make sure that you guys knew about that sex industry, and about how much you support that if you are into watching pornography. So it definitely brings things to perspective when you start involving your family members, you know. And for him, it was me, or like he said, you know, it was Michaela, or it was Emerson. You know, just that thought process alone can literally rip a father's heart out. Just imagining that kind of scenario. So, but yeah, no, we want you guys to research this stuff also. It's out there. And obviously, I mean, we're here to share our place of where we're coming from, but you could definitely research it. It's out there, and it will make your stomach sick.
Before we get to that though, one good thing to put on this, if you do have kids or a spouse that could be in it, covenant eyes.
And we'll put that link below too.
But don't do it like if I have covenant eyes on my phone, she's not to be my accountability partner because she's got things that she's dealing with. It needs to be somebody.
You wouldn't want me to be his accountability partner.
It needs to be an accountability partner, like for me, a guy.
Yeah.
And he needs to be one that will put me in my place, that will have truth hurts. It needs to be that. It does not need to be your spouse. And that's, I think, a big mistake a lot of guys do, is they try to make their wives an accountability partner, and it's going to fail because they're already dealing with so much already as it is. It needs to be another Christian male, or for instance, what she's going through, it needs to be a Christian female, an accountability partner for her.
Yeah, and that could be the wife's fault too, because she may want to have control. If you're one of those wives that has to be in control, you're OCD about that. You may want to be in control of what your husband looks at. You might want to know everything, but I promise you don't want to know everything. Number one, and you would rather your husband reach out to another guy, and so God can work on you, and then God can work on him. Sometimes us having that much information on what they're really, really struggling with, genuinely, can make our walk a lot harder, and can make our journey just. I mean, it really caused a lot of pain that I didn't really need in the beginning, and I had to learn to take my hand off of it. So for those women that want to be in control, just don't do it. I promise you don't want to do it, and just pray and give it to God and let Him do His thing with, the accountability partner that's going to be watching over him and making sure he's doing all the right things, and you focus on you. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. We got several questions from people. I did, like he said in the beginning, I did put something out on Facebook, which is my only social media out there. I'm not on Instagram or anything else. And that was kind of my way to welcome in some questions from people, just people that either were involved in this, people that weren't involved in this, but just had just this, I don't know, just curious about what it does or where it comes from or, whatever. So I had a really good turnout of people, and I really appreciate those people who were very vulnerable. I did have a few that were very vulnerable, and I'm so grateful for you showing up and just allowing me to use your questions. The first one that I got was, like he just said, what do you do when you are alone and you want to indulge? How do you resist? So like he said earlier, you would find something that you love to do. For him, he takes his guitar to work. He loves playing his guitar. He loves working out. So in those moments, he may say, I got to get a workout in anyway, but I'm going to do it now instead because temptation might be hitting me. And it could even happen to somebody who's been down this road. They can still have these times where they just feel overwhelmed and they need to go and just get their mind on something else. And I mean, it works for him.
I listen to podcasts, Christian podcasts, when I'm doing my workouts. I try to stay engrossed in something positive. To me, it's Christianity. And I listen to numerous different Christian men's podcasts. And that's how I keep my mind engrossed. And like I said, keeping God first. I mean, you've got to keep Him first.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so someone else asked, is soft porn okay? So there's a couple types of pornography. There's obviously the XXX, which is the one that he was involved in, but there's also the softer side, which he was involved in. So most people think, oh well, I'm not watching XXX. I'm just indulging over here. Is this okay? And really, I guess you could answer soft porn.
It could be checking out girls in bikinis. It can be checking out girls in tight yoga pants. All that is considered soft porn. And that's a big still no-no because you're still lusting over another female.
It could be scenes in a movie. It could be watching a commercial that's inappropriate. It could be, like he said, anything in public. So those things would be considered the softer side of porn, and it's still a big no-no. Another question that came in is, if I am watching porn, how does this hurt someone else? Because one of the things I think that people, mostly men, there are women obviously that do this too, but mostly men think that they're watching pornography and it's just them and the pornography, how is that hurting me, or how is that hurting someone else?
I think it goes back to what I said a little while ago. You're fueling this sex trafficking industry, and that right there is an answer enough that you're hurting a lot of women and kids and men that are stuck in this sex trade of pornography, and that's who you're hurting.
And also,
and you're hurting God. God does not want you to be watching that in the first place, whether you're single or married.
Right,
That's first and foremost. You're hurting God.
It's a sin.
And you're fueling this industry of sex trade.
Mm-hmm. And also, what I was going to say is that it hurts us too. It hurts the families. I don't think when you get married, you're accepting that your partner is going to be in this and do this and everything's going to be great. No. You want your husband's eyes to just be for you. You don't want him to be tempted by anyone else or anyone else to pull him in. And the day you find out that your husband's watching this, the emotions that hit you it's astronomical. I'm telling you, it is the kind that just will put you into a quick depression for a long period of time. And that is the pain I don't think that they, or even the women that look at it, would even think about for someone else. It's a selfish act, and they don't think it hurts anyone else. So yes, the answer to that is it does hurt someone else, and actually not just someone else, it hurts multiple people. So but that's the answer to that question.
And just keeping it real, was it the second time? Maybe the second that I got caught with it, or the third. No, I think it was second. Amy developed 14
Oh, it was
ulcers?
the first time.
14 ulcers in her mouth. It was a lot.
It was in the upper 30s.
Oh,
the dentist gave me a very long talk. It was the very first week of everything that happened. I had lost like 15 pounds in that first week, and then I started developing ulcers in my mouth to the point where I was probably closer to 40, and I had to go to the dentist, and he said, these are stress bumps. And he said, listen, young lady, he said, whatever it is you're stressing about, you need some stress management. And I was like, I wish I could tell you what this really was. And you would be like, oh, well, I totally understand that. But that was just what happened with me. That just tells you just a tiny, tiny bit of some of the repercussions of how that can hurt someone else. So our next question is, what if I am single? It can't hurt, right? Because he's not married, or he doesn't have a girlfriend, or she is not married, or she does not have a boyfriend. So you can elaborate on that. It can hurt. It can hurt yourself too.
I think it goes back to what you said, man. You're hurting God first and foremost, and still going back to the human trafficking
And lust.
And lust. It's all part of that, and yeah.
That's not really laying a good foundation anyway before you go into a relationship. You definitely don't want to go into the relationship knowing that you've got that there.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
Right. Because if you think that if you're single and this is just something you're going to do while you're single, and then you're going to get married and it's going to go away because you can have sex whenever you want, at least that's what your mind is telling you, it's not going to happen that way. It doesn't just go away. It's something that you're developing. It's like starting drugs and then saying, I'm just going to cold turkey stop. I mean, there have been people, I'm sure, that have maybe been able to do that, but it's like, don't set yourself up for failure, and don't go into a marriage that would be a beautiful thing that God created, and don't bring this into it. If you're single and you're dealing with this, please use the battle plan that he lays out, and please get yourself to a place where you can be moving forward and get yourself out of it, so that God can bring you the woman, or the man, if you're the woman who's struggling with this, of your life, and be able to be free from this.
And I think with young men looking at this before they get married, and even guys looking at it who are married, I think what it's doing also is giving you a false image of females. By watching this and being engrossed in it, being addicted to it, you're viewing women as objects, and not for who they are. And
Excuse it.
It's giving you this image of sex, what God intended it for it to be, it's taking that completely out, and it's warping their minds of this false thing, what sex is, what they're watching, which is all, it's made up. None of that stuff what they're doing is enjoyable. What they're doing, it's all an act. But yet, that's what you by watching this, you think that is supposed to be, and you carry that into a relationship. You carry it into a marriage, and it's doomed.
It's basically a preconceived idea of what you would want your life or marriage to be, or what sex would be like, and then you would be very discouraged and let down. We are back, and we are on a cell phone now because our G7X just
the battery died. I was having to try to get some things off of there, so sorry for the different view and whatnot.
Yeah, the lighting is a little bit different. So
technical difficulties.
Yeah, now you know why. See, it's just the enemy, because this is an important subject we need to talk about, and he's just trying to wreck it. But okay, so we're going to continue on with our questions. The next one is, does what women wear affect this? I want to answer.
Yes. I say yes.
I say yes too. I want to just address this really quick. I believe that when it comes to this issue, that men obviously need to learn self-control. They need to learn the boundaries and given the tools and things that they need to kind of keep their life in the straight and narrow, and that's their responsibility, yes. But as a woman, we also hold responsibility when it comes to this, to make sure that we are modest, and modesty is extremely important. I've taught my daughter about that. I was raised with that. It's not very hard to do. It's just always being considerate of others and making sure, especially when you're in a church setting or if you are in public in any way, shape, or form, that you are being modest with the way that you dress, and making sure that you're not going to cause another man to fall, because God will hold you accountable to that. And it's really important for us to make sure that we're doing our part. It doesn't all just land on us, and it doesn't just all land on them. That would be very difficult for us to continue to go in a direction where we wear what we want, and our men continue to fall and they struggle through this while we just get to, use our bodies to do that. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to our husband. If you think about your husband being out there and someone else, their wife is out there being inappropriate, causing your husband to fall. So it's just a matter of doing unto others as you want done unto you. That's also in the Bible. That's something that I feel very strongly about. So those that know me know that I do not play a part in dressing inappropriately in public. Now, if I'm at home, that's a different story. I make sure that, obviously I'm comfortable. But if I know someone's coming over, if I know that I have to leave this house, then I'm always double checking to make sure that I'm appropriate. And so, yes, I do believe it does affect people. It affects men.
And in the same sense, men need to be respectful. It shouldn't matter what a female's wearing. We should be respectful and not fall into that. But it's a hard thing not to fall into. So as a battle plan, if I'm talking to a female, I try to keep contact. In this general area right here, nothing below.
Which is very hard, because sometimes I'll be talking with a male and I can see his eyes go somewhere else, and I know exactly what he's looking at. So I'm so glad he said that, because it's just part of the battle plan. And you just make sure that that's what you're doing. And if that's, the angle that you're checking, women out, which is their face, and just listening to them conversate, or, whatever, I think that's different. You're not, indulging on their bodies. So how do you build back trust and intimacy after discovering that your spouse was watching porn?
I think it's a building block. It's like building a house. You have your house built, and a tornado or hurricane comes through and wipes it out. What do you got to do? You got to, let's say it's a brick house, you got to build brick by brick. And this is no different with this. When you get caught in this, you got to eat humble pie as men, and not only walk the walk, but you got to talk the talk. Am I saying that right?
Talk, you got to walk the walk.
You got to walk it. You got to do it. Getting Facebook off, getting Instagram off, whatever you may have, get it away. Stay off the internet. Stay off YouTube. Get all that stuff away. Get engrossed in the Bible. Go to church. Put God first. When you start putting Him first, everything else is going to start lining up. And she's going to see that. She's going to see when you have proof that you went here, that you wasn't doing this, that you didn't watch this, and she consistently sees that proof, that trust is going to be built back. But I had to learn the hard way, and it doesn't get built back in a week, a month, 3 months, a year. It took years.
Years and years
and years, guys, years to get that trust back. It's not something that's easy. And to me, the easy way out is saying, you know what, I'm not going to even do this. I'm going to let's get a divorce and let's just end it. If you really love your spouse and you want to make this work, when you put God first, it's a long, hard battle of getting that trust back. But it is so worth it in the end because it has totally changed us. I think if I would have continued doing this, I don't know what we'd be right now. Wouldn't be where we're at right now.
No.
I wouldn't be a deacon at my church, praying with my wife every single night, praying with others, which I was so embarrassed to do. Putting God first and going back to church and getting plugged in has totally just changed us. I mean, big time. I don't think Amy would be up there singing. Like I said, there's no telling where we'd be. Yeah. But getting that trust back, it takes time. And it takes, guys, eating that humble pie. There's going to be good days, and then there's going to be some crappy days. There's going to be days where everything is running smooth, and it just takes one little trigger for our spouse to remember what we did, and it's going to be a very unhappy day. But it's one of those days where you got to just suck it up and say, you know what? I did this. I caused this. And it's just part of the process. But I think the proof of what we're doing, of if I say that I'm doing this and I got the proof to back it up, or she sees me, if we go to a place and she sees my battle plan in plan, I think that's a trust builder.
Golly, you guys. So he talked about in the beginning about the bricks to build a house back. Let me give you an analogy that we started very early on when we went through this. And it was basically about like what he said, where like the tornado or the hurricane, which is getting caught and having all of this come to light, literally just like gets the house completely off the foundation, just destroys it. I mean, all you have is that foundation. And so I'm really big on word pictures, and what I would tell him is every single time I saw him doing something that was promising, like he said, using his battle plan in public, or just showing me, taking a picture of his location, just letting me know, hey, not only did I tell you where I was, let me show you where I am. It was things like that where I would say, you just earned a brick. And basically what that is it's just taking a brick, putting a little bit of that mortar that's on there and putting it on the foundation and getting it going. And this tells you right there, how long do you think it's going to take to build this whole entire house back up? It's going to take a long time. I mean, for people to think that, you get caught and it's over with and, everything will be great shortly after that. It's not true. Especially for the spouse on the other end. For instance, in this situation was me, it's not something I could have just went back to normal the next day and everything's great. No, a lot was destroyed. And I had to see if it was really worth it for him to try to build that back. And when I saw that, it just proved so much more that not only did he love God and that was something that was important to him, but he wanted to change and he needed to change for himself first. And then he could look into changing for me and for the family. And because of all of the hard work that he's done from that point even to now, it just shows you where we are. He loved us enough to do that. And that just, he built the house back, guys. And if he can do it, anybody can do it. I promise you that can happen. And I think that once the trust is built back, when that starts happening, then I feel like intimacy comes back too. It's not something that is just, you're going to say, well, in December, the intimacy will return. I think that there's a sense of closeness that happens when you're watching your husband work for something that is so good, and it's somewhere that that God wants to bring him to, and how it's going to benefit you, it's going to benefit him. You're going to see him, elevate his relationship with the Lord, which is so very important. It draws you to him. It's just something that naturally happens, and you don't have to worry about that intimacy being scarred. You don't have to worry about wondering about different things. I mean, sure, you may have some thought processes, and those are things that you need to be praying about in your prayer closet, and you need to be asking God to help get you through those times. But I promise you. And we're back again. We're back on the camera. The phone storage filled up really quickly. I'm telling you guys, this is an attack. This has never happened before. So we're gonna attack these questions very quickly. So we're on a short little battery life. But another question that was on here was, how does a man stand up to peer pressure when he's being asked to watch porn or go to a strip club or anything like that?
Man up and say no. Don't care what anybody says about you. If they call you a sissy or, oh, he's lame, who cares? He should be the only one that matters, and her. Don't care about what anybody else says. Say no.
And that was our last question, because the other one that was on here, he had already answered that, so we're going to leave that one. But I wanted to say this really quick. I want to hit this, and I want to hit one more thing after this. But I read a quote that I wanted to share, and it says, "You get better at what you do." That can be viewed in a negative way or in a positive way. So basically, if you're watching porn every day, you're just going to get better at it. If you're turning away from porn and you're turning away from sin in the sexual arena, which you should be turning away from sin in all walks of areas or whatever, but because we're specifically talking about sexual sin, if you're turning away from that, you're just going to get better. So the question is, what are you doing? What are you doing that you're going to get better at if you continue to do? So I want that to sit and marry a little bit. One of the things that was extremely important to me to make sure that we said in this blog was how to get through this from the wife's place, because we hear a lot about the man, which if it's the man in the relationship that's addicted to pornography. And of course, if you're not the man, you're the woman, just make sure that you switch this, obviously, and just know that this would be for the husband. Number one, if you find yourself in a relationship where you've caught your husband with pornography, the number one thing that you want to do is you want to seek counseling, because that is going to help you in a lot of ways that you don't even realize. Having somebody to help guide and navigate through the whole ordeal, because it is a lot. It is not just cut and dry. There's a lot that goes with it. Number two, I recommend that you journal. A lot of times when we're writing stuff down, there's something that happens, and my mom has always said this to me, there's always something that happens when you're taking what's happening in your head or how you see something and you're writing it down. And one day when you share your story with somebody, you're going to be able to go back and look at that journal, and you're going to see things that you've forgotten about, or maybe where God was taking you that you don't remember anymore. So please just pull out that notebook and get your pen and journal. The third thing that I recommend is that you pray for your husband. And I know that that's probably not something you're going to want to do when you first find out, because of the pain and the hurt that you're going through. But I promise you that it is one of the most important things that you can do is pray, because he needs your support just like he needs anyone that's willing to stand beside him and walk with him. It is very important.
And men, pray for your wives.
Yes.
With your wives.
With your wives.
With.
Number four, put your trust in the Lord, knowing that he has your husband, and he's changing him, he's guiding him, he is strengthening him in the fire, which can be viewed as refining. A lot of times when this kind of pain happens, this happened to me, I would put all of my trust in him when he was telling me, I'm not going to do this again. I will never look at this. I'm going to steer clear of it. I put my trust in that, and I was consistently let down, and it just made my pain that much harder. So I'm recommending that you don't put that trust in him, because he's going to fail you. He's going to do things that are going to constantly let you down, and you cannot put that in him. You just can't. So I'm recommending that you put that in the Lord, because He will never, never let you down. He won't. We just sang this on Sunday. He won't. And this is one of those situations where it's extremely important for you to do that so that God can walk you through this and not be distracted or have the pain be greater because you've put it in your husband. Number 5 and 6 kind of go together, but you need to speak over him with encouragement and verses. Like I said in the beginning, you may not want to do that because of your pain. Like, I literally disliked him so bad for like a long time because of what I feel like he did to me, because I took it as like he was doing this at me. It was to me. So I went into a protection mode, and I literally was like, I don't even want to look at you. That's that pain that we feel when we've been hurt. Go against that. Speak over him. Give him the encouragement and the Bible verses. Speak it over his life, not only in your prayer closet, but also speaking it over him, because, my pastor has said it, that anytime that you tell somebody that they're doing a great job, it only makes them want to do better. They're going to want to keep doing it. So speak over him, speak life over him. Number 6, which goes along with it also, encourage him through positive affirmations that he can and he will do this. Because guys or girls, he will have days when he feels like it's too much for him. He will have days when he feels like he can't do this, that everybody else around him can do it, and he's the one that's going against the current, and he doesn't know if he has enough strength to do it. It is our job as their wife to come alongside them and to give them those positive affirmations saying you can do it, you will do it. And then it brings you into number 5, which I just said earlier, which is encouragement and Bible verses. Number 7, which is the last thing I had written down, just kind of pondering on all of these thoughts, is make sure that you give grace as hard as it can be. But let me tell you how it's gonna become an easy thing to do, is when you think about all the things that God has done for us as his children. It becomes easier knowing that he loves us unconditionally and he forgives us. So in other words, every day we're sinning. We're doing things that totally make God look at us like, really? Are you serious right now? But he still loved us through it. He gave us the grace that we deserved, and he was unconditional with that. And he in turn is the prime example of what he expects us to do as his children. And this is your scenario right here. This is your scenario to practice that. Even though he's unlovable or he might be unforgivable, it is our job to offer the grace and let God deal with him. I mean, if you're praying, which is, number 3 here, if you're praying for your husband, then you're basically giving it to God. And as a kid, I always viewed that as putting that prayer in a bag and putting a pretty bow on it and giving it to God. For some other people, it might be, I'm laying this at the foot of the cross and trusting that God's going to take it. If you've put it there, let it go. Let it go, and you focus on you and the Lord, and obviously you're praying for him, and you let God deal with him. Don't let that be something that you grab and pick back up and try to take that with you on the journey, because I promise you it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You're not going to have a life of freedom. So just pray that over your husbands, and this is specifically for the wives.
And also with that, create a war room. Her closet was her war room. That's where she did all her praying. Guys and women, surround yourself with an inner circle of Christian people around you. Surround yourself with that, because if you don't, it's not going to go the way you have it planned. If you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of guys who continuously watch porn, you're not going to get out of it. You want to surround yourself with Christian men. She's wanting to surround herself with Christian women to build her up.
Like-minded women. I'm not going to go hang out with somebody who does something that would be detrimental to my marriage. And that's where, it goes back to biblical things where you read about being unequally yoked and making sure that who you hang around is people that you want to speak into your life and into your marriage. But just a quick reminder, I know you wanted to share the analogy about the water buffalo was important to you.
Going back on that, while we need support from others, we were shown a video clip at Everyman's Battle. It was a water buffalo. He was at a lake getting some water, and he was by himself. Well, some lions came out from the area and attacked him because he was there by himself, and it was illustrated as this lone man was right there, and sin was surrounding him and just overwhelmed him, and he was being overtaken by the sin. This water buffalo was being overtaken by these lions. It wasn't until his band of brothers, these other huge herd of water buffalo, came and pretty much saved his life. They took on those lions and shoot him away. And it was an illustration of, for instance, me at this location here, and I just got surrounded by all the temptation. I can't fight it, and I'm being overtaken. And then 10 of my brothers, my Christian brothers, come out from nowhere, and they help push all this sin away, and they give me this warm embrace, and they pull me back. That's why we need to have this brotherhood of men, this sisterhood of women that come around you and are there with you for morning time, night time, whatever time that it may be that you need help, that they're there for you. We need that.
Yeah, we do. So I hope you've gained some knowledge. I hope that this is ministered to your hearts. Let this not be the last thing that happens. If you still have questions, or if you still want to pick our hearts about our story, or if you need help from something that is affecting your life in this area of sexual sin, please do not hesitate to reach out. It can be to us. This is something that we have both been very, open about, and we're also just willing to be able to take on anything that you may have.
Yeah, please reach out if you're going through anything. If you're a man and you need help in this situation, reach out to me. If you're a female and a wife or a spouse and you need somebody to talk to, please reach out to Amy, and we'll be more than happy to help.
And if it's not us because there's, a brick wall there, which I totally understand, it will not offend us. Please just promise that you'll reach out to your pastor. Your pastor can also reach or send you some resources, but also can maybe send you to someone in the church that might be dealing with that, or maybe, leading that group, or reach out to Every Man's Battle. You can still do that very discreetly.
Or a counselor.
Or a counselor.
Just remember, we're not professionals, but we're here to help.
Yeah. But just make sure that you're reaching out. That's one of the most important things. Don't think for a second that you can do this by yourself, because you can't. You will fail if you do this alone, but you can beat this. It just takes that first step in saying, I think I have a problem with it and I want this out of my life. So I thank you guys for watching. Please share this video on social media, on all of your platforms. We would greatly appreciate that, and we'll put all the links to all of the things we've talked about, and we hope that this has helped you out.
We're invincible. We're invincible.